dias, buenos dias. Good morning here, everyone. We're back at it in a couple of weeks. It's been a crazy 2020.
Just
But
a little hiatus.
a little hiatus. Every other week we'll do a little. Every week we'll do a through. Yeah, but good to be back. How are you guys doing?
Doing well, man.
Yeah,
I'm
Yeah.
good, man. I'm good.
yeah. All right. So what do you guys? Are you guys drinking anything? We got the mate,
Of course,
Yeah,
man.
the staple mate, and the
the the brown hot water, the
okay.
bean juice,
So I
or the
heard.
gossip juice. What
I
is
the
it?
gossip.
The
I
gossip
heard,
juice.
Gabe, you're gonna do it. You're doing a TikTok based off of coffee and how to brew coffee and stuff like that.
I don't know about that. That'd be a good idea, though. I'll
Let's do
keep
it,
that
man.
in mind for future content.
Do you have like a vision board behind you that's like, all right, TikTok ideas, dog person,
No, that's actually
weather,
my
weather? What's New York
my
like?
my weekly schedule and
Ooh,
prayer list as well.
okay.
Oh, it looks kind of empty, man. It looks kind of empty. You gotta,
Let me move,
you gotta do
my
more
head.
There you
stuff.
go. It's just for curiosity,
Yeah.
See what-
Let's see what Gabe's gonna be up to this week.
Let's see. Oh, you only got two things on that list, man. Come on. Just kidding, bro. Pastors are busy in other ways.
That's what pastors do. Yeah.
We set up two big
That-
things.
That's what my wall is blank.
No, Brian got the invisible ink there.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
need like a special light to see.
I just wait for God's finger, bro. You know, and
Yeah,
Like Daniel?
it hasn't happened yet. So
You don't feel disappointed though because it's invisible ink. You're like, I don't gotta do anything.
That's
funny.
a good pastor's joke.
Do you guys find yourself doing a lot of pastor corny jokes when you're preaching or meeting with people, or?
yeah, bro. I sound like a dad.
I don't think I say any jokes really. Maybe once or twice as like anecdotes or illustrations, whatever. But
Not like
about it.
Yo, so I gotta let you know. Chantal and I were asked to help out as hosts for a new initiative that started a couple months ago called the Love Potluck. Shout out to Gabe.
Oh, Lord.
Shout out to Gabe.
Nah, shout out to another Gabe, not you, Gabe. Another Gabe.
Okay. Yeah.
No, and so what it is, and this is not a promo because I want to tell you because I did a dad joke yesterday because we were asked to host again. So it's like a virtual online dating for Seventh-day Adventist singles.
Oh, are you single, Seva?
No, but we just host as a couple, Chantal and I. So we're like hosts.
Why do you do that? You want to make people feel bad? Like, look at what I have. You have this yet, so I get to host.
You guys stick with the program. You can find someone like we did.
Look at all of our dogs.
Look, we literally did that. Yeah, because they're all barking like this is art. Yeah, no, but we just kind of host. So it's pretty chill. It's pretty cool. So you got like 7 people, 7 boys, 7 girls, and they come into 7 different breakout rooms for 7 minutes, and they just dialogue. And then if they felt like they connected with someone, they message us who they thought they connected with, and then we try to pair them up. But yeah, yesterday we were having some technical difficulties with our breakout rooms. So some people were in the same breakout room back to back with the same person. So it was just one of those bad pastor jokes of like, if you're there again with someone, then it's a sign from God. It's like super dumb. But yeah, I tend to do that too, man. I get up especially when I get up to preach, it's like things come to mind and you're like, should I say it? Probably not, but it's funny. So.
No, for me, it's more like in conversations, like if you're having lunch or whatever. Like a few weeks ago, we had some of the young adults here to kind of just talk about stuff, and we had lunch here, and bro, just dad joke one after another, and it sucked. I felt so like something possessed me, man. Like I couldn't stop it. Even Nani was embarrassed of me.
Wait, time out. Did you have your New Balance on as well?
No, I didn't have my New Balance on.
Your P58s.
Bro, funny, dude.
Oh man.
Yeah, there's something that happens. You just kind of get in that groove. I don't know what it is. If it's just trying to like entertain people because we're so many times in positions where people are just sitting there and waiting or whatever, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna just say whatever comes to my mind. And then
I think what it does is it also breaks like the awkwardness
Yeah.
You know, especially if there's like an awkward silence. But
Mhm.
me, I don't mind too much. I'll just sit there and be quiet as well. See see how long they'll take it.
Yeah. No, I like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. It is a break of of trying to get people to, hey, it's not awkward. Let's just talk about something. So yeah. As we're getting awkward now, let's go into Psalm 6 then.
Yeah. Let's do that. Let's do that.
Let's just do what we're actually
It,
here for. Psalm
it
6.
it's so awkward that David just wails.
David wails in this one.
He just cries his eyes out.
Yeah. So, do you guys? I guess just a random question. Do you guys find yourself going, maybe in this year even more because it's been a hard year, going to Psalms and just trying to pour out your heart like David did, or not really?
Yes, I do go to Psalms, and I think I've mentioned this a couple times before, but I've been reading the Psalms more than I usually do, just like the past couple of months.
Yeah.
Just because it's a lot easier to connect with people who are going through mourning and grief when I have the language of mourning and grief, which Psalms is uh, heavily uh, containing Psalms of grief. It's
Right.
all about mourning and wailing mostly, and so yeah, man, it's been the go-to book for me.
What about you, Brian?
Um, I I generally don't go to Psalms, just because I feel like I really have to sit and ponder on like the words and really just kind of like what we do here,
Right. Break it down.
for each chapter. And I'm like, sometimes I don't got the time for that, man. I'll be honest. But my favorite verse, what I feel like my spiritual life, like when I look back, when I look forward, what I think sums up my relationship with God is Psalms 42. That's my favorite
Yeah.
chapter of Psalms, and definitely my favorite verse is that those first two verses probably in Psalms 42. So yeah, no, that's just like welded in me.
Yeah.
I take that with whatever situation I'm going through, and I like that, man.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No, I like that. And like you said, right? I think that, and we've talked about it before. I think there's something about reading through and realizing like these other great people also went through crazy stuff, and at some point, David, it will stay. And I don't know, he might say it here. I don't know. Actually, he does, but he's like, just take my life, God. Like, I'm just done with this. I can't handle this anymore. So, and I'm sure it's a lot of the sentiment that a lot of people have felt, especially during 2020, of just overwhelmed, stressed. Maybe Thanksgiving was like that as they got around the table and people started talking about politics, and you're like, or on Zoom, and it's like, oh, I just want to get out of here. I don't want to do this. Um, so whatever
Dude.
in your reality, you're not alone. So Psalm 6, it says it's for the director of music. What is that? Does that mean it's for them? Or I guess he wrote it to give it to them to make the music. For the director of music with stringed instruments. Is it for, from? With stringed instruments, according to Sheminith, a psalm of David. So here we go. Lord, do not rebuke me in your anger or discipline me in your wrath. Have mercy on me, Lord, for I am faint. Heal me, Lord, for my bones are in agony. My soul is in deep anguish. How long, Lord? How long? Turn, Lord, and deliver me. Save me because of your unfailing love. Among the dead, no one proclaims your name. Who praises you from the grave? I'm worn out from my groaning. All night long I flood my bed with weeping and drench my couch with tears. My eyes grow weak with sorrow. They fail because all my foes. Away from me, all you who do evil, for the Lord has heard my weeping. The Lord has heard my cry for mercy. The Lord accepts my prayer. All my enemies will be overwhelmed with shame and with anguish. They will turn back and suddenly be put to shame. Very solemn.
It's a good one, man. It's a good one.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. It is a good one.
Are we
I
just
think that's it. It's just we're just meditating on the words.
honestly, the first thing that comes up to me, I guess, is this part, turn, Lord, in verse 4. I love that because when you look at scripture, typically the people that are to be turning are people, it's not God.
Yeah, good.
Typically it's people that need to turn from like their evil ways and go back to God, or something along those lines. But I love this because it echoes back to Genesis, I feel, where God turns. God says, hey, man, I'm so sorrowed for what's going on in the earth, of like, man, I should have never, he kind of turns from his own position. Same thing with that happens later on, right, on Mount Sinai with Moses. And he's like, yo, forget these people. I'm going to start with you.
Yeah.
Right. And so you see at in some moments of scripture where God has like this turning point, not because he wants to, but because he sees that we kind of force him to. Right. And in this case, I feel like David's like, he's done something wrong because he's asking not to be rebuked, not to be disciplined, but to be treated with mercy. Right. And so in some way, I feel like he's saying, turn, Lord, and deliver me.
Yeah.
So even in his, like, whatever it is that he's going through in this chapter, whatever's weighing heavy on him, he's saying, God, you turn back to me.
Yeah.
And maybe I think that sometimes we don't have the strength to turn to God in our weakest moments, and our addictions and our shortcomings. Like, we don't really get that sense of like, oh, during this time where I feel like most vulnerable or most filthy, I'm going to turn to God.
Yeah.
It doesn't really happen that way.
Right.
And I feel like David acknowledges this, and he says, God, turn to me because I know I can't turn to you.
Wow. That's a good observation. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good. And I think also just noticing the language that he's using, of rebuke. He's right. He says, "Don't rebuke me in your anger, chasten me in your anger and your displeasure." So it seems like whatever he's going through is obviously, difficult. It's painful.
Yeah.
It's frustrating, and I think the plea that David is giving, for God to turn to him. My version says return, to come back. I think that's just language of what it feels like to go through, some kind of hardship and trouble. It feels like you are alone, that you're doing it by yourself, that no one else in the world is suffering the way you're suffering.
Yeah.
So it just echoes that human experience of loneliness through the trial and through the despair. And David, like many of us today, he expresses this plea to God to return, to come back, to to look at him once more, which is, I still find it astounding that a guy that is like constantly writing these like worship songs, let's just put it that way, like these worship bangers, this guy is, well known for his faith, of course, and he's done so many great things, that he's constantly feeling this way. Like he's constantly depressed and sorrowful, and feeling like he's been abandoned by God. So I imagine, like, I know in my heart, I'd probably, if I were to have met David during this time, I'd probably be like, yo, like, have faith, man, believe.
Bro, you're still the king, dude. Like, what?
Yeah, right. Like, you're the chosen one.
Really know, but yeah, I mean, you're thinking that, man. You're the king, bro. Like,
Yeah. So like my immediate inclination is to like judge him and think like he's going through some kind of crisis of faith, but like in reality, it's like he has more faith because he is turning his
Yeah.
despair to God.
That's good. I like that. Yeah, it's because I think it really shows the rawness and intimacy of his relationship with God, where he's not afraid to come with those issues and like be upfront and real. And it's like, hey, I mean, there's a lot to be grateful for, but there is still things that I'm like really that really keep me. I mean, the fact that verse 6, right? All night long, I flood my bed with weeping and drench my couch with tears. Obviously, it's a hyperbole, but and just maybe more of a metaphor. But I mean, it's just he just shows the level of which he's just like in pain and crying. We don't really know what the
Yeah.
context necessarily is, but as he always mentions, he's surrounded by enemies and whatnot. So yeah, he's just going through a hard time. I thought it was very interesting. And one, going back to what you were saying a little bit, Gabe, of just like, don't rebuke me in your anger or discipline me in your wrath. I feel like it's something we would have told our parents to at some point. Mom, no me pegues cuando estás enojada. Don't hit me when you're mad. Don't just, it's kind of this idea. Hey, just cool off a bit. I don't want you to overreact to the wrong that I might have done or something that must have happened.
Yeah.
It just shows how, his like, man, he's just really like real with God in the sense how we would be with our parents, right? Obviously, he still respects and is in awe of him, right? And all that, but he does come to the relationship with God in the sense of like, oh God, and you kind of see that with Moses, right? Where Moses is pleading back and forth for the people of Israel. Abraham, these people had a really close relationship with God where they were not afraid because they knew the character of God to really have those conversations, but at the same time still hold him in, with respect and dignity. So
Yeah, when I read this and kind of bouncing off Gabe and you, Seba, about this sense of like, yo, you've been through so much, why don't you have like a little bit more faith, right? And I think that going to I think it's First Kings that mentions that David is older and he needs like a concubine to come in and keep him warm. Like, bro, if you need someone to like get naked and keep you warm, it's like your body is shot, my friend. Like, if you can't keep yourself warm with like a blanket, like you're done.
You can't put 10 blankets on you.
And he dies earlier than most kings because he didn't die in battle. So he at 70, right, he dies a little earlier than all the other like peaceful kings, I guess you could call it. Right. And it's because, bro, he's been through so much. Like throughout his life, he goes through so much that his body's literally shot. Like he can't. And at least that's what comes to mind when I see like the wording of like, heal me, Lord, for my bones are in agony. And it's like, yeah, he's talking about anguish, right? Like, okay, yes, I'm going through a really tough time. It's so deep. My sorrow, my pain is so deep that it hurts like within my bones. But at the same time, it's like, maybe it does hurt, maybe you got some arthritis or something. And I love this part of the verse where it says, my soul is in deep anguish. How long, Lord? Turn, Lord, and deliver me, save me. And there's a reason why he's like, save me, right? There's the reason why you're going to save me, God, because of your unfailing love. And so even in like his discussion with God, he recognizes, listen, dude, like we could make a pact right now. Like you save me and I'll do this for you. But chances are I'm not going to do that, And so might as well, be clear up front and say, God, save me because of yourself, because of who you are. And I think that I remember as a kid, not totally understanding what my relationship with God was like or how to go about it. I would promise a bunch of like stuff like, oh God, if you get me out of this, if you give me an A in that, I'll do this or I'll do that. And it always fell through, I never did it. And when I did try to do it, it wasn't like I actually like lived it out for a long time. And so I love that David's like, yo, you got to save me because of your unfailing love, not because of anything I can do or I can give you, but because of who you are, basically.
Yeah. I like that verse there, verse 4. And I think, that whole entire analogy, like heal me for my bones, like my bones are in pain, my bones are troubled. I think that's a good description of what people in pain actually, feel. Like someone who's lost a loved one, or who's battling through some kind of trauma,
Yeah.
you know, um,
Actual pain. Yeah.
yeah, they feel like it's troubled them to their core,
Mm-hmm.
to their actual bones. I was reading up on this, and some scholars say they're uncertain as to where this psalm fits in the chronology of David's life. Some say towards the end of his life. Others say after the news of Absalom's death, um,
Which is still
wherever.
towards the end of his life, you know.
Yeah, which is still towards towards the end of his life. Whatever it is, man, David is really giving a neat picture of what human suffering looks like. And it's interesting that his very first assumption is that suffering, like personal suffering, has some connection to personal relationship to God. Like his very first instinct is, oh, I'm suffering, man, I wonder what I did.
Right.
Like, what did I do that I'm suffering? Like, did I like do something by accident? Did something happen while I was sleeping? Um, so he runs to God like immediately to check that out. Of course, that theology, many of us, is God paying, and tick for tack with humanity. Like, oh,
Right.
you ate that extra
To do
cookie that
good.
you said you're going to give to your little sister. Now I'm going to plague you with,
Yikes.
some kind of disease. But it's interesting
With
that
acne.
immediately, like, yeah, with acne. It's interesting that his assumption is straight to, okay, what's going on? Like, I need to, go inquire with God about this.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I feel like there's also a big deep connection as you were talking to just of not just when especially when you think of people that are going through with guilt, right? And they're just how it eats them up, and like physically it just takes a toll on them as well, and shame, and you just, though it's a mental thing, and like you're saying, right, maybe it was something he's just overwhelmed with mistakes that he made at the end of his life. He's looking back and he's like, maybe it could have been when, I don't know, there's a bunch of assumptions when God's like, hey, you're not the one that's going to build the temple, and he's like, that's a lot of pain, man. I want to be able to right my wrongs in a way, right, and build this magnificent place for you. And God's like, nah, I'm sorry, you made too many wrongs. So, but it's
Yeah.
fascinating to see how our mind really affects our literal well-being and physical well-being in terms of our strength. And if your mind's not really in it in terms of mental health, then your body really can't. The whole idea of going to the gym, right, unless your mind really wills you to and say, hey, we're going to get up and go to the gym, your body's not going to do it without your mind really leading that effort. So
Right. And
yeah.
I love how, verse 3, how he puts that question, how long? Like, what's the timeline of this suffering going to be? And that kind of paints a good picture of humanity's impatience.
Yeah.
And I know I'm like very impatient person. Listen, if you come up to New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, like the metropolitan area, we're all in a rush, man. Like, we need things to get done like this. And if you take too long, we're going to let you know that we're frustrated because you're dragging your feet. So I definitely related well to that question, how long? Because when you're waiting, it feels like, there's a book that me and Brian read, Seculosity, and the author puts it well. Like, it feels like you're being forced to experience some kind of indignity by waiting, like you're being robbed of your dignity by waiting.
You're not respecting me as a person.
Yeah. So who hasn't felt that, like that God isn't answering them, or God is, making them wait.
That's powerful. Yeah, I think that waiting period also just slowly kills you too, because you're like, I don't know when this is gonna get better, right? I remember feeling that too when I was dating. Different situation, but it's still the idea of waiting. When Chantal and I were dating, and then you're like, okay, we might get married in, a couple years or here and there, and that whole waiting period really kills you. And it's not just until you get engaged and really set a date that you're like, all right, I see the end in sight. I know it's coming. I can, okay, we can get through this next year because we know at the end of this year we're gonna get married. But when you don't know that, that waiting period is just like, and I'm sure too, even when people here waiting on their maybe results from COVID that were stressed out the whole time. Do I have it? Do I not? What do I go to work? Do I, and people finding out if they have other diagnoses for other diseases, and any waiting period like that, it really takes a toll on you. And just like it really, I think sometimes puts you in a slump too, to not really be able to do anything because I'm just waiting to see what's gonna happen. And
Yeah.
it's not.
And sometimes waiting brings out like I want to say poor theology because I mean, reading David's text, he uses like this evangelistic tool that the old school preachers and unfortunately some currently use, which is like, hey, I could die tomorrow.
Ooh,
You
yeah.
could die tomorrow, so you better accept Jesus now.
Yeah,
And like
right.
David uses that with God, bro. He's like, among the dead, no one proclaims your name. Who praises you from the grave? He's saying like basically, hey, bro, like it hurts so bad, I'm about to die. Like,
Right.
who's gonna
Yeah.
praise you? I'm not gonna be able to praise you if I'm dead. You need to.
Who's gonna write these songs?
Yeah, you need to turn now and do something now, because
Yeah.
all this waiting is making me feel like I'm about to die.
Mm.
And the fact that he uses that with God, I think is bold, but speaks of his like that relationship that he has with him. Is like, bro, he's so open, so honest, so genuine in the way that he speaks to God and the way that he prays. I don't know, and I'm sorry if I'm criticizing people today, but I don't know how many times you've heard people pray and they say like Father 20 billion times, like or they have like one saying that they go back to like a billion that they go back to. And yes, we've been taught to kind of pray that way, but it's like, imagine if I'm talking to to you, Seba, and I'm like, yeah, Seba, so I was doing this, Seba, and then afterwards I went and I got a coffee, and Seba, I went, bro, that's so annoying. It's like, who do you talk to,
Like that to
like
repeat
that?
them.
Like
Right.
nobody. And
Yeah.
and when you have like this like personal relationship with God, which you definitely see in David, no matter how many times he's messed up, he's willing to just like talk it out, dude.
Yeah.
And like person to person, obviously not as equals, but person to person. And I love this man. I love how straightforward he is when he speaks to God. And for us, Christianity, thousands of years after,
Yeah.
we need to kind of train ourselves to be able to speak to God as a person, because it's a relationship that you need to have, and part of that is el habla, your speech.
Yeah. I find it interesting too that always David, it seems to be in every psalm. It's not only, it's like he's having two separate problems, turmoils, whatever you want to call it. One with God, right? Which is like, why are you far? Why are you not near me? Why are you not listening to me? And then the other one is like in verse 8, right? Where he's like, he turns to the people that are actually inflicting pain around him. And hey, away from me, all you who do evil, for the Lord has heard my weeping. The Lord has heard my cry for mercy. The Lord accepts my prayer. So it's like this, I guess, tension that you're living in, right? With this, like, it's your relationship with God and also relationship with others. And sometimes you feel like they're both bringing pain, whether that be God's what is it, inactivity and silence can be a reason for you, like, God, I lost my job, and then I have all these people around me also trying to do evil to me. Like, it's just at least you want one side to be going well, right? And so
Right.
to feel like maybe David feels, where he's like, there's really no one on my corner, can really be a lonely place where you just feel overwhelmed, and that's why, and that warrants why he's like, I'm worn out, my bones literally hurt, My bed is filled with weeping, and my couch is with tears. So I've moved from my bed to my couch, crying, eating ice cream, and watching Netflix, and still nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
mean, you can relate to David because I mean, at this point in his life, you want to assume that, who is his inner circle? Like, who does he really have to kind of rely on?
Right.
Typically during that time, like your general was kind of like your right hand person. And in this case, he couldn't trust his general or any of his generals because they were under that one general. And so he couldn't trust his sons because they turn on each other. Who could he really trust? And so, yeah, you could definitely relate with David and seeing that, he's by himself. He feels like he's by himself, but this twofold conversation that you brought up, Seba, that he's having here in this psalm. Typically, you'll see him speaking with God, and then you'll see what is affecting him, like what is going on around him that is making him speak those words to God. And I think that that's an awesome example for us, as you're pointing out, because what's going on around me, those are the things that I need to bring up to God. Those are the things that I need to converse with God about. And in writing, I love that he writes this out, because whenever I actually take the time to sit down and write out my thoughts, right, or share them with someone, like if I'm sitting down with Gabe or with Seba and I'm sharing my thoughts, I'm sharing what's going on throughout my day or my problems, it's so much easier to come to a place of a solution or acceptance or forgiveness. And he gets there because he's talking about these enemies and how what they make him feel and all these things. And then in verse 9, he's like, the Lord has heard my cry of mercy. The Lord accepts my prayer. He comes to a place where I'm sure he has stopped crying, as he's writing that, or maybe his cry changes from a cry of sorrow to a cry of gladness and joy. Because his prayer is being accepted, and I think that's the value in community. That's the value in looking to God as a person that communes with us, and you really see that. You see that in this psalm, man, and I like that. I like that very much.
Yeah, it's interesting too that it's not. He doesn't say the Lord has, conquered over my enemies and done away. It's just like the idea that he just heard my prayer. That's it.
Yeah, he hasn't answered my prayer. He's just
he hasn't
accepted
answered
my
yet.
prayer.
He hasn't. It's just I'm confident that he's heard me and that he accepts my prayer. And now he has confidence now to face what's going on around him. And he's bold in saying like, yo, all my enemies will be overwhelmed in the same way that I feel overwhelmed now. That's going to come upon them, and they're going to be overwhelmed with shame and anguish. They're going to turn their back and suddenly be put to shame. So it's kind of like the roles are reversed, and he has this like, I don't know, this confidence. And it's crazy because it's many times we have that confidence once God actually does something, right? Opens up the door and stuff. But even in that time of prayer, we're like, it's not until I see it, then I'll believe it, right? Kind of like doubting Thomas. If I got to see his hands with the holes in it and the side. And here David's kind of like in the midst of how crazy a situation is that's causing him to be so broken and hurting. Just the fact of knowing that God hears him, he's like, all right, I can continue forward. That gives me confidence.
Yeah. And I think that encouragement, Seba, it comes in the waiting. And I think that there's something special that happens during that process. I saw someone on Twitter or on Instagram saying, in this season of Advent, we're taught to wait. And we impatiently wait, like, most of humanity. But something special happens while we're waiting. Something's at work in us that, we don't know what it looks like, where we're unaware of it. But here, at least in David's, prayer to God, something happens from the beginning of his writing to the end that he just feels like this sudden sense of encouragement, of hope, of seeing some kind of light at the end of the tunnel. And like Brian said, like, it hasn't even happened yet. The Lord has heard the voice of my weeping. He heard it. That's all. He hasn't answered. He heard it. He heard my supplication, and my text says he will receive my prayer. So the prayer hasn't even been received yet. He knows, like, he heard it, but he hasn't received it yet. And I like how he caps it off by saying, "Let all my enemies be ashamed and greatly troubled." Right? His bones are troubled. Now they're going to be troubled. As you said, Seba, the tables have turned, and let them turn back. Right? And that imagery of turning. Right? God turns to David, and now they turn away from him. So it's basically the roles are reversed.
How the turntables, pretty much.
Yeah, how the turntables.
Exactly. Yeah, and I feel like that's the theme here, the turning, right, and turning back, and the in Spanish is arrepentimiento, right? I don't remember the word in English.
Repentance.
Yeah, that sense of like repentance, of going back and analyzing it again and being like, oh wait, we can do something different here. Yeah, God asked for the Lord to turn. I love that, man. They will turn back and suddenly be put to shame. That's not going to happen right away. He's kind of like prophesying this, right? And he's saying like, the Lord accepts my prayer, and because I know that, then I know that all my enemies will be overwhelmed and with shame and anguish, and they will turn back and suddenly be put to shame, because there's going to be a moment where God's going to vindicate me, and they're going to turn back to, I guess, this idea of turning back, of like they're going to stop pursuing me, and they're going to stop harming me, or whatever it is that they're doing to him, and they're going to see that I was right the whole time, or that God, or not that I was right, but that God was with me the whole time.
Yeah.
And I think that's very shameful for people to actually look at someone and be like, wow, God is really at work in your life. And you see that a lot in Christianity. You see that a lot in many of our churches, where people are going to hold on to their first judgment. They're going to hold on to their first when they first cast that judgment on someone else, for as long as they can. And then I love this, because no, they're going to be put to shame. And I think that's shameful. We've created a culture that it's shameful for us to accept that we were wrong in judging people, that we were wrong to exclude people, that, we were wrong to erase people from the books, or whatever it is you want to call it. It's shameful for us. And that's why we don't admit our mistakes. And unfortunately, that's the culture of many churches. And this is why, we don't want to feel that shame. But I feel in a sense, David goes through that first, and in a way, I look at David in this psalm, and I think of like all the young people that we've turned away along the years because of like premarital, sex and pregnancies and abortions and different, realities of their own identities, of how they feel, how they identify themselves, and because that doesn't align, with our cookie cutter mentality, then we drove them out, and we're not willing to accept them back in, because we don't want to feel this shame of having to turn back on our word, of having to swallow our words and swallow our pride. And but to have the assurance that God is with them, I think that's awesome.
That's
and
good. I want to say, if you're looking at it from I guess like a military perspective, just because David is, he's a man of war. When your enemies turn their back on the battlefield, this is not a sign of neutrality. This is not a draw, a truce. Like, this is like the tables have literally turned and flipped. Now you're on the side of victory, when you were feeling like everything was gonna be lost. Now your enemies have turned back. That's because they're retreating. And like, you have the advantage now. So that is something special that happens, that God is able to do in our lives, that when we feel like we're about to be defeated and overwhelmed and just completely finished, somehow the tables are turned completely, and now we're on the side of advantage, we're on the side of favor, we're on the side of of victory.
Yeah. I'm just wondering here if David's prayer, and I'm speculating because it doesn't say, right? But I wonder if he's asking for a chance to have like that Joseph moment with his brothers, because sometimes your enemies aren't really like people that are coming after you to kill you or something like that. I feel like here when he's talking, his enemies are probably people that he knows very well, that maybe share a seat in his court at his table, and that
his church elders, his
a lot of politics. It seems like it's he's talking from a political standpoint,
right?
And I feel like here the turning back is like this turning back of your mindset of like, oh wow, he was right, and suddenly be put to shame because of all the things that they've done, and now him being placed in their position, and them being placed in his position of anguish and pain or whatever. I wonder if he's asking for the opportunity to be like, hey, this is how you guys should have treated me. We're good. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that's what he's asking for, but it would be pretty cool. It'd be pretty cool if that's what he was asking for. If after all these years of saying like, oh, you see, you were wrong. Here's my sword. Ka-ching, ciao.
Which he eventually does do, like to Joab. Like,
he doesn't do that.
He doesn't do it himself. He gives the command, the kill command.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And so, but even when he does that, he says, "Hey, Solomon, do this, but do it in your wisdom." And so he still left it up to Solomon for him to be like, "Okay, am I going to just completely kill this guy, or just like?"
Doesn't it happen in the sanctuary? Doesn't that fool run to the sanctuary and like grabs onto the
horns? Of the. I think
crazy guy, man.
Horns. I think he tells him to come out, and he's like, "It's okay. I'm not gonna."
It's all right, guy. It's all right.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
What's crazy? I was kind of went on a thought tangent here. Is that as you were talking about Jesus, David telling the Lord to turn. It's the same word that we always use for repentance itself. I don't know if you guys had mentioned that, right? And it's like,
I think Brian said that.
That's crazy. I was just thinking on that. I was like, man, literally asking God to really
repent
in a way. I don't know. It's a weird. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's that part of relationship there, but yeah, man. Psalm 6, pretty good Psalms, man. It was very raw, which I appreciate from, I guess, the whole Bible too. That it's raw, real, nothing's hidden. It's just gonna
except Daniel and Revelation.
I guess that's
all hidden. I'm just kidding.
Nah, bro.
Ahí está el pastor, el chistecito del pastor.
Ahí está. Oh, I don't make pastor's jokes. Ahí está.
All right, so I guess we kind of talked on that, but maybe a short, big takeaway for you guys.
Yeah, mine is was that verse 4, for your name's sake or for your mercy's sake. I think that in situations perhaps like David, he is kind of like asking, for God to turn the tables around, vindicate him, and try to restore him. I'm not sure about you guys, but often I think that's our impulse. Like, God, I want you to do this for me so that everyone can know that I'm I'm not as guilty as they think, or I'm the good person. I'm the good party, the innocent and pure party in this situation. But in reality, God doesn't work that way. God is, he's doing it for his name's sake, and because of his mercy, because of his love. It kind of just focuses the the reader as to like the motivation for God's, I guess, intervention in the story.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. It's just talking briefly on verse 4, right? My Bible has like a little annotation here that says, "Oh, read Psalm 17, verse 13," and that kind of goes hand in hand with this verse. And Psalm 17 is also like a prayer of David. And verse 13 says, "Rise up, Lord, confront them, bring them down with your sword, rescue me from the wicked." And
Wow.
then I look back at verse 4. I'm like, "Turn, Lord, and deliver me, save me because of your unfailing love." I'm like, wait, what? And so, like this idea of saving for David is like, yeah, turn, Lord, and deliver me. But look, this is how I expect your deliverance to come, and your unfailing love to be shown towards me, right? And so,
sorry, guys, just go ahead, keep talking, man. You don't have to stop.
I thought you were gonna take a picture and be like, "Hey, I'm in the middle of something." That's why I posed, Anyway, and how he expects this God to come through for him or to turn on his behalf. I thought was interesting. Anyway, aside from that, yeah, man, I really want to focus on this idea of turning and how God turns, and then how his enemies will turn too. And man, it's just crazy to read these words from David, because I feel that in many areas of our lives, it resonates with many areas of our lives where we're asking God, "Hey, man, I know I messed up," because he's asking God not to deal with him.
Yeah,
because he definitely messed up. So discipline is because he did something wrong. David did something wrong. And so I love that fact that he can pray to God and say, "Man, Lord, hold on, man, don't discipline me. Just, instead of disciplining me, I'm faint, heal me, and just turn, Lord, and deliver me, instead of casting the discipline that I deserve, the rebuke that I deserve."
Yeah.
And what's amazing about God is that he goes the extra mile. And David knows this. He knows that if he asks God for this, God is gonna not just heal him and restore him and give him a sense of assurance, but no, he's also gonna go the extra mile and turn against David's enemies. And so I love that, because when we're asking God to do something, we ask for things that are so small, in considering the God that we serve. And yes, we're asking for healing. We're asking, "Hey, Lord, why is this happening to me?" And we never expect what God is going to do. And I love that David's relationship with God has grown to a place where he can ask this of God, and then when he comes down to what his conclusion is not only that God is going to accept his prayer, but it's not only that God's going to heal my bones, but is that God is going to just like completely obliterate my enemies. And I think that that's my takeaway, is that God can do so much more than what I ask for, and so much more than what I expect him to. And to come to a place where I'm assured, as David is assured, of what God is willing to do for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say he asks for he asks with expectation and with imagination.
Yeah.
Right? Like, God's gonna answer, but God's gonna do much more than than what I'm asking for.
Yeah, that's good. It's kind of like James, right? James says, you don't have because you don't really ask, and when you ask, you're asking for the wrong things. And so whatever you need, ask God, and he's going to provide for you. We read James. Wow, that's crazy. A while back. Right? We did James, right?
We did James? Yeah, no. We did.
Yeah. Hebrews, James. Romans, James.
And
mine, my big takeaway is just and I wanted to throw this in here for Brian's sake. The Message Bible translates verses 4.
It's Brian's favorite version.
I know. It's like, break in, God, and break up this fight. If you love me at all, go get me out of here. I'm no good to you dead, am I? Can't sing in your choir if I'm buried in your some tomb. So
Wow.
interesting. NIV. So yeah, my big takeaway is I guess the 9, verse 9. The Lord has heard my cry for mercy, and the Lord accepts my prayer. Just comforting to know that God hears and knows what we're facing and what we're going through. We're not alone, and He's going to act right in that confidence, that boldness, like Brian said, of really calling out to God and saying, "Hey, God, I'm asking beyond what others have asked you to do because I know you're capable of doing it." So
Right.
that's beautiful words. Well, thank you, David. Appreciate your words. Thank you guys for coming on, and everyone else that tuned in, and we'll watch it later. Appreciate you all. I hope that you are able to, in the midst of a crazy year, find confidence that God is still able to do great things and good things for you and towards you and with you. And no matter how crazy our situation, you're not alone. There's many people going through the same thing, but we have a good God in our side that is willing to change that and will one day change all that for better, so that no more tears. I mean, to hear, I wonder if God ever comforted David with that idea, right? All those tears you've cried, you'll never have to cry them again once we're in heaven, right? And that's a pretty beautiful reality there. So, all right, y'all, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.